So this is the IE FlexFuel Kit. So as you can see, comes with a sensor. Also comes with these two adapters, as well as hose clamps. Also has this harness. I actually wrapped mine in some sleething. Still need to kind of zip tie it out of the way. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut these. What I recommend is that you cut them one at a time so that you can get the spacing right. This will allow you to figure out and make sure that you don't cut it too much off. These were kind of a pain to put in. I lubricated these to allow these to go in. I would install these separately into the hoses first. This hose, as you can see, there's quite a bit of difference in diameter. So when you look at this part right here is a challenge. I actually ended up heating this up a little bit. The hose, that is. Yes, there is fuel, so you have to be careful. I used a heat gun, not an open flame source, and then add a little lubricant onto the barb, which allowed me to basically twist it in. What I would do is I would try to get it in as far as you can the first time, give it a bunch of twists, then pull it out, clean the barb out, and then shove it back in there, repeating the same process. So that allowed me to get this side in a lot easier than this side. And this is the normal routing for it, and then up to here. So the good thing is that the bracket, the manifold already has brackets, so these fit into it, holds it in place. You can kind of move this around a little bit, which is nice. You might have to kind of lift up on this pipe here in order to get the connector pushed through, because it does sit really close to this. So it'll clear. It just takes a little bit of effort. One thing to note in IE's instructions, you're supposed to pull this fuse and then turn your car on. When you do that, it will start the car, but it won't allow the fuel pump to run, and then the car will eventually die out due to no fuel, which is perfectly fine at idle, and then you can start working on it. Once you cut this first hose though, right here, just be aware that there is still some high pressure fuel in here and it will spray out, so have some stuff nearby to kind of clean all that up. It doesn't take long, but it does have a good amount of residual pressure. Moving on to the next part, so obviously you can route the cabling. I have mine going down through here, and then it splits into three pieces. Let's see if I can get its focus. There we go. So one is going to travel along here and up here to ground. So when you do this, it will disconnect the battery because that's the ground. So keep that in mind, because what you're going to end up having to do is use your OBD11, and then, you know, at the end of it, scan, delete all the codes, and then go drive it around for about, 2 minutes, and all the remaining code should clear out. That's a normal thing that happens when you disconnect the battery. Next part is here. So down here at the very bottom, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Yep, right down there, there's a tab. You gotta get a really long screwdriver and then pry it, put it in, and then wedge it outward like that while lifting on this piece. And that this whole side piece right here will come up. See how it moves around? Now from there, this will need to come up. So you have tabs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's 6 right here. This is for my horn setup, ignore that. What I found easiest was to hold here while applying a slight lifting force, using my other hand with a screwdriver, and then just slowly pop these tabs up all the way around on this end. Once you get this end, then you can start working on this end, and then you can shift your hands over to this side, do the same thing, slow lifting force, pop these tabs up, and then you can start pulling this up. Now keep in mind, this is not a completely lift this thing out of the way, because you have these cables here. this end here will lift up, and then this end will start to lift up, and you'll take this, pivot the whole thing forward. You're only going to get so much, and then you can get access to it. What you're looking for is this fuse here. You'll install the wire into that fuse, and then you can install that fuse. And then the last part, which is kind of a pain, is dealing with this connector. This intake has to come off. You'll pop this lever back, allows you to pull it off the ECU, and then you can see that tab in there, right there. Screwdriver goes in, and then that allows you to lift up on this, pull this out of the way. Once you do that, there is it's a purple piece that holds all the clips in. You'll put a screwdriver in, leverage that up, and then that whole assembly will slide out, and then that will allow you to push the dummy plug out. Let me see, do I have a dummy plug? I'm not sure what I did with the dummy plug. Oh, I don't see it. So there's a dummy plug that's inside of here. It's a gray one, and what you'll do is this corner pin here is 85. So there's 4 rows of pins. It's the third from the bottom row on this side. So 85 here, and it starts down all the way at the bottom. 84, count all the way up to 71, which is like just past halfway point. And then you'll be able to see if you get a flashlight. There's a number of pins that are in there. It's like the only blank pin that's in there that's missing, but it does have the dummy pin. So make sure you check on the other side as you're pushing the pin through. You'll notice the dummy plug starting to come out. If you happen to have a tool for it, you can use that. I just happen to have a tool used for cleaning carburetors that's small enough. Put that in there. I was able to push the dummy plug out and then move it all out of the way. When you do that, reinstalling the pin is kind of a pain too, because you're gonna have to basically use, you know, the same tools that you have to kind of push that pin in. Just make sure you keep an eye on how the other ones look, because, you know, as far as pin insertion, it should be with a tang sticking up on the connector. That way it locks into place, and you have to push those things in pretty far, like let's see, about that far, in order to get it in. Take your time and be careful you don't damage all the other wires. Once you have that done, that's pretty much the last step. Then you have to have your high pressure fuel pump upgrade, and then once the tune's released, you have a Golf R, and then you use that, good to go. But yeah, that was pretty much the hardest part, was this pin. The connector itself is pretty easy to get apart. Oh, well, I will say, because you have to remove this ratcheting arm here, that was a little bit of a pain to reinstall everything. So what I found easier was to take this to help align everything, stick it partially into the ECU, and then push it all the way in, then take this and attach it to it, because that way it allows everything to line up. Because I don't know if you've ever seen inside of these have a certain portion, it's like gated to where it has to line up correctly, and then the gears have to line up correctly. So this way the gears lined up where they needed to be, so that this ratcheting arm functions correctly, and then it locks it into place. So recommend looking at that. Installation for this is a pain too. I forgot to mention this. So if you look, we'll use this as an example. Right down here, I see how it's T-shaped. So there's a number of these all throughout. And actually, I missed one right here. See how it's T-shaped? So let me zoom in. That has to line up so it'll slide into place. So I'll have to look at that later, see if I can get that fixed, but there's a bunch here, 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 and all of those have to line up, and it wants to the shell itself wants to bow out as you're putting this in. So you have to get like all of these lined up. But again, reminder, this goes in like this. It doesn't just go on top. So you have to get these two like almost lined up perfectly, and then while holding and squeezing this together in order for these to slot in. And these slots extend down pretty far, which makes it a kind of a pain. So take your time and you know, try not to break anything. And other than that, make sure you reinstall your fuse here and the new fuse here, and then you're pretty much good. That's it.